Alright guys, you're welcome to the next tutorial in the object detection terminologies. Today we shall be looking at anchor boxes. You often see this in literatures when you read papers on object detection. Yeah, anchor boxes are essentially predefined template boxes of certain height and width ratio. In a nutshell, an anchor box is a bounding box. And what it does it helps to be able to detect multiple objects from a single grid cell. Let me try as much as possible to illustrate what that means. So, uh, when you have an image, when you have an image, let's say you have an image of a person inside a picture. So let's say that this um, alright, okay, so let's say this is the size of our image, the width and the height of our image. So I just represent, why is it doing that? So let's just say that's the width and the height of our image. Now what happens is we have a ground truth for this particular image, and what the ground truth does is we draw a bounding box around our object of interest in that image. I'm trying to see how to select a better color there. It's not allowing me to do that. Oh, yeah. So I hope I'm able to do that now. Okay, great. So I need to draw a bounding box in our ground truth. So you draw a bounding box around the object of interest. So during training, this is a typical example of how our image will look like. We have the image, we have objects that are of interest to us. We draw a bounding box around the object and give it the name of the object. So this bounding box in yellow is the ground truth. Okay. Now, during training, we feed in this image with the ground truth into our system, into our object detection system. So what our object detection system does is this. It takes the image and draw a number of grid cells predefined based on what you define as the number of grid cells. This is an hyperparameters that we defined. So we draw grid. How small or how big the grid is is an hyperparameters that we decide on. So we have the grid. Alright. So now that we have the grid, each grid now becomes that's a cell. So in a single grid cell, it is possible that we have multiple objects in a single grid cell. So the anchor box helps us to be able to, for instance, if we take this no, that is not what I want. So if we take, let's say this place, this particular place, if we take that particular grid cell, it is possible that we have more than one object in that particular grid cell. So the goal of the anchor box is to help us to detect multiple objects from a single grid cell. I hope that makes some clarity. So now our model will be able to detect only one object per grid cell, but in most cases we want our model to detect multiple objects per grid cell. Alright, so as is done in YOLO, is we consider the cell that is closest to the object, to the center of the object. Now we'll see more as we want to go through we see the clarity once we go through the paper on YOLO. But the rough idea is that we have our object in blue, which is a person. We try to identify the center of the yellow bounding box, which is our ground truth. So the center of that bounding box will be somewhere here. The center of the bounding box of our ground truth, I'm talking of this yellow, will essentially be a representative of the center of the object, which in this case is a person. Now, wherever that center falls in the grid cell, for instance, in this case, it falls in this cell. It falls in that cell. So this grid cell will be responsible for predicting the bounding box during training. That's just what's happening. I repeat myself. We have our image. We draw a number of grid cells on the image. We already have the bounding box that we manually labeled on our object. During training, we draw the number of grid cells. We identify the center of our ground truth. We map that center to the cell, and we give that cell the responsibility to learn. That cell will be trained to reproduce our ground truth. So that's what's happening there. So that's what you're seeing here. In this case, we have this number of grid cell 1 1 1 2 1 3 up to 3 3, demarcated with with a black. And so here we have the grand truth, which is the one in red for the person and the one in green for the bicycle. Now, as I explained, we locate the center of the red bounding box, which happens to be here, and we locate the center of the green bounding box, which happens to be here. By the time you look at this very well, you will see that the center of the red bounding box and the center of the green bounding box, they both happen to fall inside this cell, that's cell 22, which then means that this cell 22 will be responsible during training to learn to predict the bounding box for these two objects. That's essentially what's happening there. I hope that makes some sense. So you will see here that this cell 22, the notation is we have the probability of a class, we have the bounding boxes coordinates. In this case, we're interested in two objects. So if we have those two objects inside it, we put 0 or we put 1 1. If they are not, we put 0 0. You see? Then for the second object, we also have the probability. We also have the probability. We also have the bounding box coordinates, and the how confident it is that okay, there is class 1 of the object and class 2 of the object. This PC is actually saying the probability that there is an object in that bounding box. But we'll see details as we go through the papers. So we need anchor point. We had our output depth volume. So during training, we choose the object with center closest to a particular cell and choose the bounding box with the highest IOU to the anchor box. So that's essentially what's happening. An anchor box is a bounding box, and it helps to be able to detect multiple objects in a single grid cell. Hope that has shed some light to some interesting things here. Thank you for listening, and see you in the next one. Thank you.